Good afternoon. I really do appreciate Ann and Mark inviting me here today because this is something that we started 4 years ago. It's been in development for 5 years, and we are perfecting it every year. As you can see, we do collaborative capstones. Now, no matter what program you're in, you have a capstone presentation. Some type of work, usually in a group environment. What we have done is we've crossed 6 programs across 2 departments. And if anyone wants my information, it's in the QR code. And I've been, like Ann said, I've been in IT for over 35 years. I started at a young age learning programming and electronics. So I've seen throughout my years of consulting, before I came into education, all the different things that are needed and how departments are not communicating well. So I sat down with our associate professor of networking. We're in different departments. And Nancy Miller, who wanted to be here today, but unforeseen circumstances prevented it. We sat over lots of lunchtime meetings, arguments over curriculum, and what we needed to do within our degrees. And as you can see here, we have 9 programs in our department. 8 are IT, and we also have project management. We have 13 faculty, we have 8 program coordinators, and then there's 2 of us who chair. I chair on one side of the department, and then there's a chair for the networking side. And we have lots of adjuncts. We have to with our programs. So we decided first, what would our mission be? What did we want to accomplish? Well, we wanted for the classroom, for the students, for them to accomplish a project that's going to prepare them for their careers. They've been studying for 2 years, they're learning the software, they're learning the networking, how to put it together, but we wanted to give them something to show, here's how you apply it. For you and for all the people that we've talked with, we want to put the idea out there as to how you could do this as well. We talked at NISOD with some who were in the biotech industry, and they've reached out because they're now interested in doing a collaborative capstone. So we want you to take away how we did this and the reason why we did this. I'm trying to be very conscious of time, so just give me a wave. Get too wordy. I could talk about this all afternoon. But we want to identify how and what the needs are as we work through. We have different modalities, so we're not all doing a 16-week. Some of them are doing 8-week courses, and they come in the middle of the project. But when we sat down and started this, and we wanted to learn what was our purpose. So we said, this is our what, this is our why, and this is our how. And it evolves every year as we move forward. We learn what we're doing, what works, what doesn't work, and then we apply it. So we started out for the what. We have all these different degrees. We have networking, we have security, programming, database admin, data analytics. We wanted to put these together. And we started talking to students 5 and 6 years ago about, do you know what networking does? All they know is they connect us, but they don't know how to talk to them. We asked the networking guys, do you know what data analytics does? No, we just give them access. So we wanted to create an IT department between these programs. And I'll show you an org chart here in a couple of minutes. So we took all these degrees, and we're hoping to bring on 2 more next year with us. But we created an IT department with all these different facets. Our networking group has to talk to our DBAs. The programmers have to talk to the analytics and the networking. They have to know what they're doing, what they need, and how to interpret the answers. All of our capstones in North Carolina for the IT area states minimal instructor assistance. So the first and only full classes is the first day and the last day. Everything in between, they need to figure out, and they need to understand where they're getting this data from. So our what was innovation. This had never been done in the history of Forsyth Tech, and we're still the only ones at Forsyth Tech doing this. But we wanted to bring together all of our students as well as the industry partners. They're a big part of this with us. They're telling us this is what their needs are. This is what they are going to face their first day on the job. And then they also come in working with us during the presentations. They're giving the students great feedback behind it. So this is just a list of majors. Healthcare informatics has been sunsetted, and we're hoping to bring on project management this year. We have a new coordinator, and she's interested in managing the whole project around. And these pictures that you're seeing are from past capstones. This was a presentation night, and you can see that the room is full, and there's probably 6 people who couldn't fit in the photograph. So as we're looking at these and we're moving forward, we're inviting more and more people. So this is our why. This is pictures of some of our students. They graciously said we could use their pictures. But the why is we're not only getting students through to get that piece of paper that says, I completed a degree, but we're preparing them for a lifelong career. They need to be out. They need to understand what they're doing and where they're going. So that is our why. Why are we in education? Why do we do what we do every day? It's not just to record a grade. It's to make them successful. Because if they're successful, we're successful when we move forward. So we talked with our advisory board, and our advisory board jumped on top of this. They are fully supportive of what we're doing because they're hiring our graduates. So when we talk to them, some of them actually come to our presentations and hire students directly because of their capstone projects. We wanted to also give that resume experience and to give them what it would be like when they walk in the door as a new employee in IT. Everyone's going to be nervous going in. We have people come and talk with them about interview skills. We have them working on their resumes, and we do headshots for them to put on their professional profiles. But none of that will work if they don't understand what they're doing. So we put this together, and the project we've been using will be revamped this year because it's built on an actual project that I designed and worked for when I was consulting. So it's not a make-up scenario, it's something that we have experience in. So these are some of the benefits, and these are 2 of our success stories. These 2 gentlemen, the one that's on your left, all through school in his adult life, he had been a mechanic, and that's all he did was mechanics. He come through our programming degree. One of our advisory board members was in attendance. 2 weeks later, he called them and said, I have a job for you at an exceptional salary if you want it. So within 2 weeks of graduation, he went from being a mechanic to being a systems designer. The one that's on your right, he was in that same graduating class, and they called him a month after graduation and offered him the same job. So they're both working together in a very stable healthcare IT department. And they've both reached out to me and said, we're using everything we learned in the Capstone. Because they're having to talk to their data analysts, they're having to talk to security, and now they understand what they've done and why they've done it, and they're better able to interpret things. This is our other why. This is just a sampling over the last 4 years of students who've come out with successful careers. So I know it's hard to read, but this is just a sample. They connect with us, we know where they're at, we know how they're doing. This is 2 years ago for our full class. And the two gentlemen are in the front row that you were just seeing. And we also have another lady on here who came out and within a month was hired by Volvo with a huge, huge salary. She's had 2 promotions since, and all of these with just associate degrees. So how did we do it? Well, we wrote the project, and at the time, Chris Rourke was working with us. He's with our system office now. But we made sure we had everything that we needed to give the students to be successful. We used a healthcare client, and we wrote this in the fact that they have multiple locations, and they're going to be opening new locations in different states. So there's a whole new realm of security because it is healthcare. We had team members from all of our degrees. Now, we didn't have enough to say each person had a DBA, each person had an analytics or a networking student, but they had to work together. So this was our organization chart. We had, of course, our Capstone class overall, with me as the chair and our industry partners giving feedback. Then we broke out the instructors for each one of our Capstone classes. So it's not one titled class, it's all of our Capstones. And then we broke them down. Our web technologies group, they were a group, but they had to have information from everyone else. Same way with networking, our database administration, and our data analytics. They had to work with every group. Our largest group is our programmers. And we would split them up into 3 sections, and they each had a department that had a need. So they were going through everyone working on the same database, on the same network, to a common goal. But the programmers were given a department each to meet the user's needs. At the end of the semester, they all do a presentation to show us what they're doing. And what's really interesting is while they're showing like their dashboards for their analytics, one of the groups sitting in the back of the room was updating records, and it was refreshing and showing in real time what's being done. So it shows a fully working system. So when we started our project on the first meeting, we had everyone there. We have some full 16 weeks classes. The database and programming are 16 weeks. The web group and the networking group come in March at the 8-week point. Because the first 8 weeks for programmers and database, they're planning, they're documenting, they're getting ready. So when network comes in, they can stand up the server, they can get the database created, and get everything solved and ready for them. We also have some classes that are running online or remote synchronous, while the others are on campus, and we're working with them. So one of the things that these students have to do, night 1, is to create a contract. Now they're chosen at random and who's going to be in each group, but they create their contract to say, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to communicate. And if you stop working, here's your consequences and penalties. Over the years, we have been asked to terminate an employee in a project group because they weren't attending, they weren't working. And if you get kicked from a project group, if you are terminated, you fail the class. So everyone has to pull their weight because they also have to fill out timesheets and progress reports, just as we did working in industry and IT. So when we started looking, each one of us has a different grading rubric. And I know this is a little too small to see, but you'll be receiving the PowerPoints. But we took all of our core classes and we made sure we had everything covered from the required core classes for each major. And then when we do a team building, we actually have a lean simulator where they work together in teams so they get to know each other. And we usually do this the second and third weeks. It allows them to communicate with each other with us out of the picture. They're learning to problem solve. They're learning to talk to each other. And this was the group from 2 years ago. And they had a great time with it. It was something different. They're actually building truck cabs on an assembly line. But it got them out of the mindset of, I'm in a class, I have so much time, I've got to worry, I've got the stress, and gave them something fun to do as a group, but it was a huge learning exercise. So in our class meetings, we always have 3 questions. In IT, all the clients that I work with, we would have what we call stand-up meetings. And with those meetings, we ask 3 questions. What have you been working on? What are you going to be working on? And what challenges have you faced? And what do you need from us? They had 15 minutes and everyone in the group had to respond. So a lot of them were working on the same thing, especially in programming. But when they ran into challenges, this is their time to talk to us, to say, this is a problem we're having. One of the problems this past year is we had someone in a database who was not contributing. So that's where we step in to find out where the issues are. But it's their time to tell us we're struggling with this information. And we've done this every week. And then halfway through the semester, I started doing an extra 5 minutes because the programmers needed to start demonstrating what they've been working on. Don't just tell me, show me. Because that's going to let me know, are they talking to the other group members? A good example of this is we had one group who thought someone else was handling their scheduling. They were to handle scheduling, but they had went to the other group and said, that's your part. When they asked me and told me, we don't have time to take on another part, we realized the communication was an error between them. So it allows us time to do quick corrections. They needed to be redirected to what they were doing. And then in our final presentations, each group gets 40 minutes. Most of them run right up to that 40-minute mark because they want to showcase everything. They want everyone to know, this is what I've done. And we also tell them to keep their documents because when you walk into an interview, they're not just going to ask you, how much Python do you know? How much Power BI do you know? How much Azure do you know? You can pull out your documents and say, this is what I've done. And we record these sessions, so if an employer says, can I see their presentation? And they agree to it because of FERPA, we can show them. This is what they've been doing. We usually have networking to go first because that's the backbone, that's the infrastructure. And then we bring in security. And what's interesting is these guys are looking at a real world scenario. And 2 years ago, 4 hours before final presentations, the security group decided to institute new policies.
Oh, no.
Exactly, it took the network down. They got the network back up, but the connectivity was broken to the point that the programmers had to quickly adjust from off-prem in the cloud to on-prem in less than 4 hours. And they did it. They were successful, and presentations went off without a hitch. So we go through, and part of this you'll see, some are dressed more casually, some are dressed more professional, because we tell them to come and dress as you would for the position you're looking for. Networking, if they come in jeans or khakis, that's fine, because they may be under a desk or in the ceiling. That's part of their job. But if you're a programmer, you're going to be sitting in an office. You dress appropriately. And that's what they're showcasing is I am prepared to walk out this door and I can talk to anybody in your IT department. So we invited our provost at the school and he attended. Our president, Dr. Spriggs, usually cannot be there because May is an extremely busy time for her, but she goes back and watches the recordings. We invite our advisory board members and then any of the faculty that wants to come. And our advisory board members take the lead on feedback. They're telling them, you did this great, this looks great, but you might want to adjust this for an interview. So it works really well. And I'm not going to read these to you, but this is just some of the feedback we've gotten from different ones. Impressed with the Power BI work. It was exhausting, fear-inducing, yet exhilarating. That's from one of our Capstone instructors. It was his first time working with us on this. The dean attends every year, and she goes back and watches anything that she's missed. But we do practice runs the week before presentation. We do a practice run, make sure all the technology is up and working, because they're using their own laptops. So their transitions between teams is less than 5 minutes. So they get that down, and it also shows their professionalism.